Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Fusion Deck User in a different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 221, Don't Underestimate Your Opponent. Amazonas Archer, Normal Summon. Gloria acted immediately, summoning the monster she had just drawn. A female archer, pale-skinned and lithe, wholly different from the muscle-bound Amazonas warriors, appeared on the field. Amazonas Archer. Level 4 Earth, a warrior, 1400 ATK. Hikaru raised an eyebrow. Wow. A forbidden card. Gloria placed her hands on her hips and sneered at Hikaru. This isn't your ordinary Amazonas Archer. She held up her fingers in a V sign. Amazonas Archer contribute 2 monsters to inflict 1200 damage to the opponent. What? Chaz exclaimed. If they still had their opening 8000 LP, it might be tolerable. But now they only had 4100. Thanks for the sacrifices you gifted us. She looked at Chaz. Go, Archer. Shoot those filthy tokens at them. Oh no. Chaz cursed internally. Ojama tokens couldn't be tribute for tribute summons. But for effect tributes? Totally allowed. Ojama Black, sipping tea, and Ojama Green, reading a manga, were picked up and fired from the bow like arrows. The 2 spirits were shot at Chaz's face in pure spite, but the trajectory bent halfway, redirecting toward Hikaru. He lifted his hand and caught the arrow tip midair. It then dissipated. Hikaru and Chaz, LP, 4100 2900. Oh! Such graceful reflexes, Grace applauded lightly. With moves like that, no wonder the professor sent us here, Gloria said. But what about the second arrow? Amazonas Archer activates again. Tribute herself and the last Ojama token for another 1200 damage. Bathed in red light, Archer lifted Ojama Yellow and launched a final shot before vanishing from the battlefield herself. Hikaru and Chaz, LP, 2900 1700. Avoiding battle in favor of direct effect damage? Bastion frowned and tapped his chin. It's not the most optimal move, but without a way to destroy Thousand Eyes Restrict, this tactic makes sense. Plus, they still have over 10,000 LP, Alexis said. 15,600 LP. If Hikaru's only attacking with Thousand Eyes, they'll need 5 turns to win. And if they manage to summon another Amazonas while Amazonas Hot Spring is active, they won't even take battle damage. Controlling the ace monster, they've gone all in on effect damage? An empty field means they don't have to worry about. Why are these transfer students from the American branch so strong? Gloria ignored the chatter. To her, dueling stronger opponents was the most fun thing in the world. Anything else was boring. She glanced at her hand. Grace's set card was a trap, Queen's Pawn, a card that could special summon a level 4 or lower Amazonas from the deck when an Amazonas destroyed a monster by battle. Even so, with no monsters left on their field, it was useless. Ordinarily, she would have kept Amazonas Archer and tried to protect her for Grace's next turn to dish out more damage. But with Thousand Eyes Restrict on the field, they couldn't risk Archer being absorbed. So now, she could let go. With only 2800 ATK, Hikaru's side would take forever to chew through. Because of that, she set the warrior returning alive and nodded to Grace, who returned the gesture with understanding. End turn. Your move. Hurry up and attack already, Gloria snapped at Chaz. Man, they're really underestimating me, Chaz muttered. He drew a card, glanced at it, and then looked up. You're both fusion duelists, right? From the American branch. That's right. You came here on Professor Akaba's orders, sure. But you clearly also came to see a deeper level of fusion, didn't you? Chaz returned the card to his hand and shook his head. All duel long, you've been saying you want to see fusion, like I wasn't even here. Oh dear, Chaz, are you feeling left out? Grace giggled. Sorry, but we're just more interested in other things, not that you're unattractive or anything. No. I'm saying your definition of fusion is way too narrow. The sisters blinked, finally giving Chaz their full attention. This guy, who only got in via rock paper scissors, what was he even saying? You didn't underestimate me, you underestimated Hikaru. You underestimated the Fusion Club. Chaz raised his chin. You think I only got in by luck? That our decks are unrelated? Hikaru's fusion thinking is miles ahead of yours. He narrowed his eyes. Fusion was never limited to the polymerization spell card. Hikaru said it all year. Friends helping each other is fusion. Team synergy is fusion. Understanding your teammate's deck, that's fusion. What are you even talking about? Gloria frowned. Grace was more thoughtful, trying to unpack his meaning. My turn. Chaz flipped a set card. Time to show you the kind of fusion your branch never taught. Flip, continuous spell card, XYZ combine. What? The moment that card appeared, the whole room gasped. Because it was Hikaru's set card. He hadn't set any defensive cards. He'd left behind a continuous spell, specifically for Chaz. Why didn't he just use it on his turn? And wait, XYZ? Isn't that Chaz's card? People murmured in confusion. Chaz smirked. Who told you Hikaru doesn't have any light machine fusion monsters in his deck? Right. Just because he hadn't used them didn't mean he didn't have them. Still, why set a continuous spell? Gloria asked. You're about to find out. Activate XYZ Combine's effect. Return one fusion monster you control to the extra deck, then special summon up to 2 of its banished fusion materials, X-Head Cannon, Y-Dragon Head, Z-Metal Tank. A new form of diffusion. XYZ cards weren't traditional fusions. They removed monsters from play to fuse from the extra deck. Ah. Grace finally got it. I return Thousand Eyes Restrict to the extra deck. Then I special summon X-Head Cannon and Z-Metal Tank from the banished zone. The evil god's eyes closed, and it vanished. Amazonas Empress was finally freed and sent to the sisters' graveyard. And now, 2 machines reappeared on Chaz's field. X-Head Cannon. Level 4 Elite Machine, 1800 ATK. Z-Metal Tank. Level 4 Elite Machine, 1500 ATK. Hikaru already predicted your strategy. Chaz flicked his hand as if summoning a gust of wind. The sisters instinctively flinched. You thought we'd keep Thousand Eyes on the field and slowly chip away? Too simple-minded. Against someone who understands all things fusion, that's a completely obvious move with zero secrecy. Grace instinctively shielded herself. Gloria was stunned. So he didn't activate the spell on his turn just to bait us into an empty field? There are duelists like that? We're not done. I fuse X-Head Cannon and Z-Metal Tank. The 2 machines combined into one. Special summon, XZ-Tank Cannon. XZ-Tank Cannon. Level 6 Light Machine, 2400 ATK. Chaz grinned. The Vito Z monsters are special. Any of them can combine with each other. And XZ has an ability just shy of XYZ's. Discard 1 card to destroy a face-down spell or trap. I discard 2 to destroy both of yours. In an instant, XZ launched shells that obliterated both set cards. Now for Gem Knight Fusion's graveyard effect. I banished Tourmaline to return it to my hand. Then, Brilliant Fusion's effect. Discard 1 spell to restore my Gem Knight's ATK in def to normal until the opponent's end phase. I discard Gem Knight Fusion. Gem Knight Prism Aura, ATK, 02450. Battle. My 2 monsters attack. Tyler Sisters, LP, 15,600 10,750. Chapter 222, The Scope of Fusion is Infinite. Set 1 card. End turn. Chaz had finally used up his entire hand. But his turn had been undeniably impressive. He hadn't gotten greedy with damage, but his lines of play were nearly flawless. That was Chaz for you, what a brilliant turn. Though, perhaps, he bragged a bit too much. However, he didn't know, within the Fusion Club, no one thought he was bragging. To them, what he said was simply the truth. As the smoke cleared, the Tyler sisters slowly reappeared. Grace gently fanned away the dust with her hand. "Mage, so that's what it is, huh?" "I get it now, too," Gloria added. "Because we've always been together, we never understood what it meant to fuse with someone else," the sisters said in near unison. "Looks like we should try some students socializing for once, right, Grace?" "If they're not boring people, sure, Gloria." Their exchange was brief. But the duel isn't over yet. Grace drew a card with a flick and turned it up gently against her cheek. Normal summon, Amazonas Swordswoman. A red-haired Amazon warrior brandished her sword and struck a pose on the field. Amazonas Swordswoman, Level 4, Earth, Warrior, 1500 ATK. When an Amazonas battles, the damage is inflicted to the opponent instead. And, I activate the equip spell, Amazonas Heirloom. A brilliant green gem floated over and affixed itself to the warrior. The equipped Amazonas monster can't be destroyed by battle once per turn. Also, any monster it battles is destroyed after damage calculation. Thanks to Amazonas Hot Spring, she didn't have to worry about taking damage. In fact, with over 10,000 LP, there was no reason to worry at all. That's why Chaz hadn't prioritized destroying Hot Spring, he focused instead on buffing Prismora to maximize damage. Chaz frowned. In that case, Hikaru, be ready. Trap card, Ring of Destruction. Ha! Target one monster on the field, destroy it. Then both players take damage equal to its attack. A flaming bomb ring locked around the swordswoman and shrank with a terrifying whine. Boom! Hikaru shielded himself from the fire. Hikaru and Chaz, LP, 1,700 200. Tyler Sisters, LP, 10750 9250. Used self-destruction to dodge the attack, huh? Not bad. But now you only have 200 LP left. A flickering candle in the wind, Amagi Hikaru. It was a fun duel, sure, but if Gloria draws any direct damage Amazonas, or even Monster Reborn, we win next turn. Grace declared it with confidence. They still had 9,250 LP. How could they possibly lose? Letting Hikaru attack, was that really enough to end them? Their field only had 4,850 ATK between the two monsters. Even adding a 2,400 ATK monster wouldn't be enough. Too bad we never got to see that deeper fusion. You two really want to see it that badly? Hikaru asked. Of course. Isn't it obvious? The sisters answered immediately. Why? Hikaru asked, stroking his chin. There's gotta be a reason, right? A reason? Wow, the great fusion duelist can be boring too, Grace teased, twirling her hair. Dueling strong opponents brings joy. That's a duelist's instinct. As long as we're in the fusion army, we'll never run out of rivals. Right. It's thanks to the fusion army that we got to duel you. It's been a blast. I see, Hikaru thought. In the original, the Tyler sisters were kind of abstract. As a special unit of the fusion army, they wiped out the resistance at the XYZ Dimension Spade branch, then went back to school without sticking around. Later, they returned to the XYZ Dimension because they heard the Lancer Squad was using a strange pendulum summon. It sounded fun, so they joined the chaos. Their dueling style was merciless. Against untrained, supporting XYZ duelists, they crushed with no sympathy. But they also clearly showed boredom when opponents weren't strong enough. After losing to the protagonist's dueltainment style, Grace became intrigued. Gloria followed along. Soon after, both defected. At their core, they simply wanted stronger, higher-level duels. Fusion, XYZ, Pendulum, it didn't matter. What they truly wanted was power. In fact, they were among the few Fusion Army duelists in ArcV who, upon losing, responded with, "Yeah, you're right. Now that's a true duelist." So that's how it is. 9250 LP is a lot, but it doesn't mean we can't wipe it out. The sisters watched Hikaru with growing interest. "Since you've been waiting for it all this time, let me show you my fusion's newest form. Draw." Hikaru slid the card into his hand. A faint violet gleam flickered in his eyes. Right now, Prismora's ATK becomes 0 due to brilliant fusion. Ha! That makes it even harder to beat us this turn. You two really are pure duelists. Hikaru pulled out a card from his hand and gave it a little flick. He glanced at his set cards, but didn't go for his previous strategy. After all, these two really might be worth recruiting. The sisters exchanged a puzzled glance. "What's going on? What's that card?" Hikaru lightly waved it. This was a card he'd only received recently. A fusion spell. When he first saw it, he was stunned. Because it didn't exist in the world he came from. At least, not before he crossed over. But super polymerization gave it to him. Just after awakening Lapis, several spell cards she gave him transformed under Super Poly's power into a new fusion spell. At the time, he had also begun developing his alchemy further with insight from UCI. He could feel it, his control over super polymerization had grown. Today, he wanted to test, could he use alchemy to increase the number of dual energy absorptions Super Poly allowed per day? This card was both a symbol and an experiment. I activate the fusion spell, Gemnite Dispersion. Ha! A brand new fusion? What does it do? The Tyler sisters leaned forward in excitement. This was what they'd been waiting for. This is a Gemnite-specific fusion spell. You can use fusion monsters from your field or hand as materials to fusion summon a Gemnite fusion monster. That's it? Just regular fusion? The audience, just stirred into excitement, now looked confused. That's it? However, if Gemnite fusion is in the graveyard, this card gains a new power. What kind of power? Everyone leaned in. If Gemnite fusion is in my graveyard, I can use up to 2 Gemnite monsters from my deck or extra deck that are non-rock type as materials. What? Grace's eyes widened. From the extra deck? Gloria's jaw dropped. What the hell? A student gasped. Bastion stood up. Did Hikaru just say what I think he did? Whoa! That's insane. Jaden jumped up. Hikaru's fusion just leveled up again. I send Gemnite Garnet from the deck and Gemnite Topaz from the extra deck to the graveyard. Fusion summon. Come forth, Gemnite Ruby. A Crimson Knight swept his cloak and entered the battlefield. Gemnite Ruby, level 6, Earth, Pyro, 2500 ATK. He actually fused using extra deck monsters? He's not just using the field, hand, graveyard, or deck, he's reaching into the extra deck too? Fusion has no limits. Hikaru interrupted their awe. Fusion can come from anywhere. Any place, any possibility, that's fusion. And I'm not done yet. Normal summon, Gemnite Sapphire. Then activate the spell card, Particle Fusion. This is a Gemnite fusion that only uses monsters on the field. I fuse Gemnite Prismora, Gemnite Ruby, and Gemnite Sapphire. O Radiant King of Shining Gemstones, combine the power of all your comrades and show your true form. Fusion Summon. King of the Gemnites. The absolute form of the White Crystal Captain. Level 9, Gemnite Master Diamond. Light flared. Rainbow gems blazed in dazzling brilliance. The gallant knight raised the sword that had struck down injustice countless times, shining brighter than the sun. Gemnite Master Diamond, Level 9, Earth, Rock, 2900 ATK. It was White Crystal's first time assuming this form, and it felt awkward. In the Gem Knight ranks, he didn't yet have the status of a Night King. Even if his spirit strength was worthy, it felt strange. White Crystal's royal form. Jaden marveled. Again? Another White Crystal form? Bastion clutched his head. Does this monster have that many evolutions? But 2900 ATK is still just 2900. Master Diamond gains 100 ATK for every Gem Knight monster in the graveyard. Gem Knight Master Diamond, ATK, 2900 3500. Also, Particle Fusion's effect when the Fusion Summon monster is summoned, banish this card to select one of its fusion materials in the graveyard. That monster's ATK is added to Master Diamond. I choose Ruby. Gem Knight Master Diamond, ATK, 3500 6000. 6000. That surpasses Cyber End Dragon. Surpasses Blue Eyes Ultimate. Even the legendary 5-headed dragon. The sisters stared at the radiant knight in awe. Grace was utterly captivated by the beautiful monster, while Gloria, more focused on the duel, said, "Even with 6000 ATK, that's not enough to zero us out, even with Z's help." She punched the air. "You're strong, Hikaru. Though it seems like we're still unbeatable in team play." True. If that were all, it wouldn't be enough. Wait, that meant something else? Gloria paused. But Master Diamond's effect activates. Once per turn, I can banish a level 7 or lower Gem Knight fusion from my graveyard. Master Diamond gains its effects. What? So cool, Sensei. Selena shouted. Hikaru's alchemy is even stronger now. Bastion looked dejected, his own research had stalled. Using all comrades, all fusion power? Jaden admired the meaning behind it. The sisters hastily looked toward Hikaru's graveyard. Prismora, Ruby, Topaz. Topaz. The monster sent by dispersion. I banish Gem Knight Topaz. Master Diamond gains the effect to attack twice this turn. Gem Knight Master Diamond, ATK, 6000 5900. And he gained a special ability. No need for Chaz to act again. He already cleared the way, solved the puzzles, and built the perfect battlefield. Hikaru raised his hand. Now, using the advantage Chaz created, I'll finish it with my final fusion. As he spoke, he clenched his fist. Chaz laughed and mirrored him with a ghost punch. 9250 LP? 200 LP? You've got it backwards. The ones in danger are you. Master Diamond, direct attack. Tyler Sisters, LP, 9253,350. Each took one strike. One knelt, deep in thought. The other slumped to the floor, dazed. The undefeated Tyler Sisters had lost? Oh ha! Victory! Fusion. 10, 100, 1,000, million. The answer to fusion, Amagi Hikaru. Chapter 223, Improve Control over Fusion. Even the Tyler Sisters lost? In the stands, total bystander Dennis folded his hands in front of him as he watched the sisters help each other up, exchange a few parting words with Hikaru, and then promptly concede. He couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Dennis Macfield, one of Leo Akaba's secret operatives from his personal covert unit, was officially still a student. In reality, he already had authority over the Obelisk Force mask-wearing soldiers and was a trusted agent of Akaba. So when he first heard that Professor Akaba would be dispatching others to the main campus, and even placing Dennis himself undercover as part of the upcoming dimensional internship, he had been shocked. Especially since they were sending the undefeated tag team, the strongest tag duelists in the fusion dimension, the Tyler Sisters, to deal with a single student. That was even more surprising. After all, the Tyler Sisters were the best tag team the fusion dimension had. Not the strongest duelists overall, but as twins whose decks worked in seamless synergy, and with the inherent swarm and aggression potential of the Amazonas archetype, they were considered unbeatable as a pair. The fact that they were deployed to the main campus meant one thing: in Professor Akaba's estimation, no fusion duelist of the same age could beat Hikaru in a one-on-one. Only a tag duel would offer a chance. Yet, in the end, the professor may be disappointed. Even the Tyler sisters couldn't stop Amaji Hikaru? Dennis felt a deepening concern. Not just because they had lost, but because it revealed that the challenges they faced here were far more serious than Fusion Club propaganda had let on. Hikaru wasn't just strong himself. His friends, his teammates, they weren't baggage. Sighing internally, Dennis thought, what a mess I've inherited. As Dennis pondered what to do next, how to approach Selena, how to steer the goals of the Fusion Club, Hikaru was already saying goodbye to the sisters. This time, we lost. But next time, we're winning it back. Thank you for the duel. My sister and I both enjoyed it thoroughly. I'd love to see even more fusion from you. Grace. With teasing and laughter, the sisters left. Chaz rolled his shoulder, now a little sore, and laughed. Ha, Hikaru, looks like you finally got some fangirls. I've always had fangirls, Hikaru shot back, jerking a thumb toward Selena and the many students watching. Then, pivoting the topic, he added, you really need to take it easy. You're not seriously staying up every night on Zoom calls with companies, are you? So you noticed, Chaz chuckled, rubbing his neck. He owned up to it but didn't elaborate. Nice going, Hikaru. Chaz. Jaden was already cheering. 2 fantastic, entertaining duels in one day? For Jaden, already gearing up for Aster Phoenix's arrival, it was a refreshing break. Even the less passionate students hung back to chat about it as the crowd dispersed. Talk of the duel filled the air. Talk of Hikaru, Chaz, the Tyler sisters, and Hikaru's next-level fusion. The match also sparked curiosity among the new students. Just what kind of club was the fusion club that Hikaru led? Their club president was more fusion than anything they'd seen on TV. Hikaru himself wouldn't be greeting them. Partly because 2 high-intensity duels had worn him out. But also because he had begun a new experiment. After the duel, Hikaru could feel it. Duel energy. The energy generated from dueling the Tyler sisters alongside Chaz was far more intense than what he generated against Professor Rox. Ordinarily, that duel energy would slowly dissipate. However, today, alone in the clubroom, Hikaru focused. Before it could vanish, he tried to direct the energy toward his chest. ZZZZZSH. From the center of his chest, more precisely, from the pendant around his neck, a brilliant white light exploded outward, sending a small shockwave that scattered papers and pens throughout the room. Then, as fast as it came, the effect vanished. The glow at his chest flickered out as if it had never existed. Ha ho. Hikaru panted, trying to catch his breath. His chest felt tight. Master, that was incredible. The full Metalphos Alcest flew out, buzzing with excitement. I thought you'd need at least 10-star spirit attunement before you could tap into that card's power. As one of Hikaru's earliest companion spirits, Alcest understood well how powerful that card was. It knew Hikaru could use it to craft entirely new cards through alchemy, an ultimate secret of the art. But precisely because it knew, it also understood how dangerous this was. Just using the card passively to perform alchemy already risked harming Hikaru. Despite that, now he was actively pushing dual energy into the card, accelerating its function. That was practically suicidal. And yet, Hikaru had done it. Succeeded. Before, the Alcest had considered calling in Winda-sama as backup in case anything went wrong. But to its surprise, Lady Winda had offered no support at all. What a beautiful hue. The power hidden within that card is truly lovely, Tiara murmured beside Hikaru, stroking her chin in awe. Hikaru was exhilarated. Feeding dual energy into superpolymerization was hard. He even had to find a secluded room to attempt it. Unlike Super Poly's usual effortless absorption, this process was rough. But change meant growth. Control. Even if today's infusion had only delivered 1/10 or 1/20 of what he hoped, it still represented a huge gain. Even if the energy gain was minor, what mattered most was learning to synchronize with the card. If this keeps up, Master, you might be able to actually put that card in your deck during duels. Alcest cried out. Harnessing the card's full power might still be far off. But just being able to place it in the deck would make all this effort worth it to Hikaru. Man! I really have to thank UCI, he said, grinning through exhaustion. He hadn't trained with UCI to learn bike mechanics. Those could be figured out here too. What he learned was how to calibrate the connection between a vehicle and a perpetual motion engine. And that, for someone in possession of the Philosopher's Stone, was the real breakthrough. Chapter 224, Branch Summary. Ding ding clang clang. Returning to the Grand Universe workshop, Hikaru stood before the main gate and looked up. The cosmos, the stars, everything existed above the workshop. One by one, stars flickered in the distance, the moon slid past the side of the workshop, and a few spirits bustling with work darted through the moonlight in a hurry. Hikaru stretched with a yawn. As he rescued more and more spirits, the interior of the Grand Universe workshop had gradually turned into a miniature spirit society. With the workshop as its core and the nearby inner planets as residences, the spirits who lived there had now become members of the workshop too. Of course, they were merely residents of this subdimension. Occasionally helping out Alcest and the others, gathering resources here and there, that was enough. Whatever they did otherwise, wherever they lived, it was up to them. As long as they didn't interfere with Hikaru's alchemy business, the world was big enough for them to live however they wanted. That said, some spirits had recently expressed their desire to join Hikaru's team. Now, under Captain Crystal's training, they were working hard to unlock their powers. Hikaru exchanged greetings with a few spirits assisting in the workshop, then headed straight into the smelting chamber. Directly placing super polymerization into his deck was not something he would do. After all, he still didn't have enough confidence in his current strength. However, considering that the greatest enemy he would face over the next year was undoubtedly Yubel, it was indeed time to start using super polymerization. Over the past year, Hikaru's spirit compatibility had risen from level 4 to level 6. But in truth, his actual compatibility was still at 5. The apparent increase to 6 was solely because Tiara's soul resided in his body, boosting him by a full level. Now that Hikaru had used alchemy to further gain control over super polymerization's power, continuing on this path meant that using it would no longer be as difficult as before. After all, Hikaru had already used super polymerization and alchemy to create lower-level monster cards. And now, he could subtly control super polymerization to allow it to absorb more dual energy, accelerating the creation of fusion monster cards. Which brought him back to the topic at hand. Gemnite Dispersion, this brand new fusion card was one Hikaru didn't recognize at all. But when he took it out and used it, Tiara made a face like, ah. Oh ho ho. Wasn't this from back then? So it became a card now? Which clearly meant that the events depicted on the card had once occurred in the DT world. Tiara just didn't know which of those events had been turned into cards. Hikaru could only assume it was a card released after he crossed into this world. That was actually a good thing. It meant his super polymerization could continue giving him stronger fusions over time. Beyond that, Hikaru was now pondering the current side quests. The main quest, of course, was about using super polymerization. The side quests involved all the new fusion monsters and fusion support cards that super polymerization had been generating. First up were two cards that had shown absolutely no progress. Armityle the Chaos Phantom and the Claw of Hermos. The latter didn't matter much. According to Tiara, the only way to charge that card was to duel a legendary duelist, so Hikaru had never expected much progress on it anyway. It wasn't something he could improve upon. But on the other hand, Armityle the Chaos Phantom hadn't budged either. Not that its completion rate hadn't progressed. In fact, after all this time, the card was already complete. But just like with Winda back then, when Hikaru placed the card into his duel disk, it did absolutely nothing. He wasn't disappointed by that. Because from the setup, Hikaru immediately understood, one day, when he encountered a duelist who used the sacred beasts, that card would finally become usable. Until then, he could only observe. As for Hikaru pulled out the card he was most interested in. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. Hikaru carefully wiped the card, though not a speck of dust was on it. Not long ago, through repeated duels with Yugo, Hikaru successfully obtained this card. Back then, he thought there was no way to charge it and could only hope the Philosopher's Stone or perhaps Yuri himself would show up one day. However, over the past month, Hikaru began to notice a change. This card wasn't like he imagined, it could only gain energy through duels with the Quartet Dimensions from ARCV. Ever since acquiring it, Hikaru gradually realized. As long as he used fusion in every duel, this card would slowly receive a share of energy from super polymerization. Among them, using the original card, polymerization, worked best. This growth was extremely slow and faint, but it was guaranteed. Every time he used fusion, it increased. The issue became clear when one day, Hikaru dueled using only cards like Metamorphosis and Ancient Gear Hunting Hound, without using any fusion spell cards. The synthesis level of the card didn't rise, and that was when Hikaru finally understood its requirement. Even so, it was perfectly reasonable. A fusion dragon should be made with fusion. Still, precisely because the growth was slow, with only a tiny increase each time, Hikaru could now quantify it more precisely. As of now, Starving Venom Fusion Dragon's completion rate was at 32%. A pretty high number. And it hadn't even been that long since Hikaru acquired this card. Back in the previous year, even with that much time, Hikaru wouldn't have been able to fill in Winda's background color. Hikaru rubbed his chin. This must also be thanks to his improved alchemy. Hikaru stretched his limbs. Next, he would try modifying the dimensional gate and also train his spirit power a bit. Ever since learning alchemy and receiving Tiara's support, Hikaru had been training his spirit compatibility less frequently and for shorter periods. But there was no helping that. Time was finite. As long as his spirit compatibility rose by another level, then putting super polymerization into his deck, that major main quest step would become more hopeful. On the other hand, if Hikaru could successfully modify the dimensional gate, the Fusion Club would break through the technical dominance that the Polymerization Club held. Even if ordinary students wouldn't be able to use his gate anyway. After 2 days of tinkering, Justice Funglocorp had sent money to the Academy to expand the Fusion Club. Selena came looking for Hikaru. Master. Dimensional exploration. Selena enthusiastically pounded on the club leader's door, the sound echoing like she meant to break it down. Ha! Hikaru set down the emerald book in his hands. Oh. So it was that time again. The first chance for the first-year top students to go on a dimensional journey. Chapter 225, Skyscraper. The First Seat's Dimensional Journey. Looking back on last year, Hikaru had only just learned of dimensional travel under Jaiden's guidance. It was during that time that Jaiden and Hikaru had their destination covertly altered by Professor Banner, arriving instead in the realm of warriors. There, Hikaru met Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight, marking the beginning of his fusion path. It was the origin of everything. As the representative of the first years, Selena was naturally the Red Dorm's delegate this year and had earned the chance to explore another dimension. Though the titles first-year representative and class representative were a bit of a stretch. Selena had only received this treatment because she skipped grades to enroll in Duel Academy. Typically, female students enrolled directly into the Blue Dorm. Selena only became the Slifer Red Dorm's class representative because she personally preferred red. Duel Academy never restricted student uniform colors. Even Ches had always worn black with no issue. The Red Dorm's dimensional gate had already been replaced with a new model. Thanks to Jaiden's excellent performance in cross-dimensional duels last year, the Red Dorm had received more resources than usual. And ever since Professor Banner's death in front of Professor Growler, as understood by most, Growler had begun acting as the interim head of Red Dorm in the latter half of the previous year. However, with his responsibilities as acting principal this year, he had delegated duties like this to other instructors. Oh. Is Amaji-san here as the coordinator? That puts my mind at ease. The Red Dorm supervisor visibly relaxed upon seeing Hikaru, tension lifting noticeably. After all, this was the first dimensional transfer for a new student. Without absolute assurance, no instructor would dare to allow it. Even Banner had administered a spirit compatibility test before sending Hikaru, confirming he had no issues. Thank you for your time, Hikaru greeted the teacher, while Selena excitedly took the compatibility test on the side. Her spirit compatibility was high, partly due to long-term isolated training, and partly due to some sort of spiritual enhancement she had undergone. Coupled with her natural talent, she already had a level 5 rating, which was quite high. Without Tiara's support, Hikaru himself was only around that level. Hikaru cooperated with the instructor, going through a physical check. Even though he'd teleported many times before, the full process couldn't be skipped. For the teachers, it was a matter of accountability. Amaji-san, you won't be joining the second-year internship later, the instructor asked while running diagnostics. Oh, I'm fine, Hikaru said, flexing his hand slightly. I recover pretty fast. In Dual Academy, first years participated in dimensional travel once a month. Generally, only the class top student and a select group of invited companions or upperclassmen and instructors were allowed to join. These journeys were for exploring new dimensions and meeting potential partners. Upon entering the second year, the school no longer strictly limited participation. Instead, there would be regular, large-scale simulated dimensional missions done as class units. After all, post-graduation, most students would be involved in such tasks in some capacity. These weren't exploratory missions into unknown dimensions, but internships in corporate-developed dimensions under staff supervision, primarily built by Kaiba Corp. As for the school-wide internship Principal Akaba had in mind, that was something entirely different. Hikaru understood his reasoning. As principal and elder, he wanted the students to have brighter futures. He especially wanted to rouse the Red Dorm students from their apathy by giving them rare opportunities to participate in events they usually wouldn't even qualify for. The problem was never him. The problem was always the bad actors who took advantage of him. After the test concluded, Hikaru and Selena stood before the dimensional gate, waiting for it to activate. A soft red light fell across their bodies. Hikaru and Selena were soon surrounded by a shimmering glow, and their figures slowly pixelated into blocks that merged into the gate. After a wave of vertigo and distortion, they landed. They stood on a vast boulevard. This was the dimension they were originally supposed to arrive in last year, and one Jaden frequently visited afterward. Anyone who had played Yu-Gi-Oh! Would likely have heard of this place. Skyscraper. Hikaru glanced around. Towering buildings lined both sides of the street. The city lights gave it a perpetual brilliance, as though it were daytime even in the dark. Some lights flickered now and then, like power outages, adding to the mysterious ambience. In the distance, the lit windows of several buildings formed letters. Spelled across a row of high-rises, Hero. This was the City of Heroes, Skyscraper. The elemental hero archetype was one of the most beloved in the world. Skyscraper was among the first known dimensions. However, despite being the hero dimension, hero spirits were actually quite rare here. Most inhabitants were ordinary warrior-type monsters. Many were low-tier or even weak spirits. According to Jaden, this dimension served as a sanctuary for weaker spirits. Hidden heroes protected them from the shadows. Because of that, nearly any kind of spirit could potentially be found here. That's why the Academy had deemed this one of the most suitable destinations for first years. It wasn't too dangerous. Hikaru had never visited before. Now that he had, he thought it might be a good chance to find a masked hero spirit. So he accompanied Selena to this dimension. Jaden knew this place like the back of his hand. He even claimed he could find Captain Gold's house blindfolded. Before coming, Hikaru had asked for a lot of tips, so he had a decent grasp of the layout. Time to fulfill his duties as a proper mentor. Anyone here? Selena shouted boldly, cupping her hands like a megaphone. Any duelists around? I'm Selena from Slifer Red, first year. Any spirits want to come with me? Too blunt. Hikaru rubbed his temples. Something's off, Hikaru. Tiara suddenly appeared, surprising Selena. There's something wrong with this dimension. Something wrong? What could possibly be wrong here? Hikaru narrowed his eyes. White crystal energy cloaked him. Selena, stay close. Yes, master, she said, even more excited, sticking to Hikaru like glue. Still uneasy, Hikaru summoned Flame Swordsman and Dark Flare Knight. Together with Selena, they ran toward a nearby building. Upon entering, the interior looked nothing like what they had seen from outside. Broken walls, claw marks everywhere. In one of the rooms, they found a spirit unconscious on the ground and several others cowering in the corner, clinging to one another in terror. Upon noticing Hikaru and Selena, the frightened spirits trembled even harder, their fear overwhelming. What is going on? Jaden said this dimension was supposed to be peaceful. Chapter 226, The March in the Dark World. Are you all right? Hikaru ignored the panicked, terrified spirits and instead dashed straight to the one lying on the ground, supporting him with a concerned question. As an alchemist who frequently traveled between dimensions, Hikaru had accumulated a great deal of experience in this area. From Captain Crystal to Undul, and more recently during his probing into Leo Akaba's roots, Hikaru had rescued many spirits. He was well acquainted with handling injured spirits, knowing exactly what to do and what not to do. Run! The spirit lying there was elemental hero Bubbleman. His mask was cracked, tufts of black hair scattered all over, and both his grappling hooks had splintered. His condition was appalling. Selena lowered her head to listen, mimicking Hikaru. His voice was so faint that, coupled with the sobs of the surrounding spirits, she could barely make out the words. Run? Hikaru narrowed his eyes slightly. Run, now! Bubbleman, seeing no reaction from them, finally gathered all his strength and shouted. But before his cry even finished, a chilling laugh echoed from the shadows. Heh, another fish caught the hook. With that eerie voice came a silver flash through the darkness. Swish, clang. Several silver blades sliced through the air and struck the walls. Selena froze in a half-squat, staring at a blade the width of a finger lodged just in front of her. At the same time, Hikaru had already stood, catching a blade mere inches from her. At the same moment, a net of hundreds of purple puppet strings appeared before them, intercepting the majority of the thrown daggers in midair. Selena fell to her knees in fright, sitting stiffly for a long while before calming down. He, not just any human warrior, are you? From the shadows emerged a squat, round gray-white demon whose head seemed fused with its torso. It oozed mucus and giggled lewdly. Its right arm writhed on its own, slowly morphing into a dual disc shaped like a curved blade. With a sinister grin, it said, "In that case, let's." Before it could finish, the blades attacking Hikaru and Selena clattered to the ground with a metallic chorus. Then, hundreds of puppet strings pierced the demon's body like needles. In its horror, it was strung up into a beehive. Wait, let's duel by the rules. It had barely finished the plea when the strings coiled tighter around it, then gave a brutal twist. Its body shredded like paper, dispersing into white light before it could even scream. Where'd this trash construct come from, trying to ambush Hikaru and then still asking for a duel? Tiara had no interest in bantering. She simply crushed it. To ambush without the power to back it up and then demand a duel of honor? That's just asking to die. Bubbleman, watching this, coughed and tried to get up, only for Hikaru to hastily support him again. Don't move. You're still hurt. Cough, cough, cough. Hikaru calmed Bubbleman and summoned Alcest to help check his condition. Then he turned to Selena. She was sitting on the ground, gasping for breath. Though the blades hadn't struck her, the sensation of death brushing past had obliterated her earlier thrill of adventuring alongside her mentor. This wasn't a field trip. Even with her mentor nearby, she couldn't afford to let her guard down like that. Hikaru saw her state and knew she'd soon recover. He didn't scold her. Selena was a girl with her own understanding. Unlike Hikaru or Jaden, Selena had never experienced anything like this. Her first dimensional exploration had been relaxed thanks to Hikaru's presence, as if it were merely a fun outing. Whereas Hikaru and Jaden's first dimensional trip landed them in jail. That ambushing dual monster spirit just now, was that Dark World's assassin, Gold? If it's an assassin, there could be several. Maybe even an entire Dark World force hidden in this dimension. Good thing Selena had brought him. If it had just been a group of freshmen arriving without any intel, they might have suffered severe losses. That assassin hadn't even given a warning. He attacked to kill. Cough cough. Bubbleman gradually came around. In the past, Hikaru could only wait for an injured spirit to recover on their own. But now he had Gem Knight Lapis, a medical specialist spirit, in his team. For non-fatal wounds like this, regaining consciousness was no problem. Once Bubbleman regained awareness, Hikaru learned about the current situation in this dimension. Not long ago, roughly 2 months in human terms, this dimension was suddenly invaded by fiend monsters. They seemed to be searching for something. At first, the native hero spirits maintained the upper hand, fighting on their home turf with terrain advantage. But then, one day, a terrifying light swept through the dimension, causing the heroes' powers to plummet. Even the strongest among them felt weak and began losing ground. Worse yet, the invaders changed tactics. The lesser fiends stopped issuing formal duels and instead resorted to ambushes, preying on ordinary spirits. Some even used weaker spirits as bait to lure in targets. About a month ago, to protect the general spirit population, the heroes carried out a massive evacuation, moving most of the spirits into Skyscraper 2 and sealing it off to prevent further harm. Bubbleman had been one of the heroes sent back to rescue those who hadn't escaped in time, but he fell into a trap and was ambushed by Gold, nearly dying. Thankfully, Hikaru and Selena had arrived just in time. So that's how it is. Master, what do we do now? Selena, having heard the whole explanation, was overwhelmed by the sheer scale of what was happening. Demons versus heroes, protecting civilians, the clash of justice and evil, these concepts were too vast for her inexperienced mind to process. Isn't it obvious? You've known the answer all along. Ha? I have? The highest-ranking demon left in this dimension is that guy, Dark World's warlord. Hikaru activated his dual disc, snapped his fingers, and grinned at her. So all we need to do is find him, duel him, beat him, then tell them all to scram or die. Oh. Right. Selena's eyes lit up with realization. Though she now understood the situation. A strange light. Dark World's invasion. There's no mistaking it. It's Yubel. Chapter 227, The Martial God of the Dark. Haven't found them yet? At the top of Skyscraper, the iconic perch favored by Flame Wingman and Captain Gold, a new and sinister presence loomed. The rooftop was now overrun by a swarm of demons. All around the surrounding platform, demonic figures beat their wings in chaotic flight. Their forms melded with darkness and thick fog, such that even light shining directly upon them seemed to pass right through. Nearly invisible against the night, their stealth made them all the more lethal. Damn it, have you found any signs yet? How did those heroes flee so fast? Among the swarm, one particularly muscular demon stood out. His massive wings spread wide, golden armor gleaming against the gloom. His presence was unmistakable. Clack, clack. A series of footsteps echoed behind him, accompanied by startled cries and wing beats. What's with the noise? Don't you idiots realize He turned, expecting to scold his subordinates. Only to find a sight wholly unexpected. Standing before him was a young human warrior clad in a blue uniform, bearing a ritual blade and exuding a fierce presence. At his side stood a young girl, closely huddled near him, eyes wary, and a floating green sorcerer spirit hovering silently beside her. Lord Gold. Several demons were suddenly flung to the rooftop by Tiara like marbles, rolling to a stop at the golden demon's feet. Intruders, one of them gasped before vanishing into fragments. You're the leader here, right? Hikaru looked up at the creature. Gold, Warlord of Dark World. Oh, a human warrior? Gold didn't show anger at his fallen minions. Instead, a bloodthirsty grin spread across his face. Ah, after all this waiting, you finally arrive. He held out a hand. An attendant demon stepped forward, handing him a rolled-up parchment. Gold scanned it and shook his head. Not the human we're looking for. Still, encountering a human proves we're searching in the right direction, the warlord laughed. 2 months in this boring dimension wasn't for nothing after all. Why are you attacking the spirits here? Selena shouted. Why? Do I need a reason? Ha ha ha. Gold laughed maniacally, ignoring her and turning back to Hikaru. So you're the one who wiped out the patrols we lost? Due to how efficient and clean Tiara's kills were, Gold had no idea how his men disappeared. But seeing Hikaru now, he understood immediately. You came here to stop me, right? He thumped the ground with his axe haft and let out a cackling laugh. A real, genuine kehahaha kind of laugh. Hikaru thought it sounded cartoonishly evil. As he laughed, Gold's golden axe split apart and affixed itself to his arms, morphing into a dual blade for card placement. Selena clenched her fists, furious but speechless. Selena, move back. When the duel begins, I might get hurt. Keep a safe distance. She nodded and stepped behind him. Demons crept closer to her, chuckling darkly. Their sounds made her skin crawl, and she rubbed her arms in discomfort. It was only now that she understood what the seniors meant by hostile for no reason. Leave the human world, and this is what you get. In any dimension, spirits instinctively hated humans, even the ones capable of speech. Before the duel begins, state your terms, human. Simple, Hikaru said. You and your kind leave this dimension. Release the spirits you've captured. Bold words. Then allow me to offer my own terms, Gold sneered, reaching for a handful of cards. If you win, I release the heroes. But if you lose, your body and your companions become mine to enter the human world. His eyes burned crimson with bloodlust. Gold was one of Dark World's warlords, a vanguard sent by rainbows to find suitable sacrifices. Their efforts had initially failed. But then one day, a blinding light surged through the dimension. The heroes grew weaker, while the fiends grew exponentially stronger. The power imbalance let Gold take complete control. That power had made him overconfident, ambitious even. He dreamed not just of victory, but of conquering the human world and usurping his own king. And so, he charged in recklessly. Duel. Gold, Warlord of Dark World, LP, 4000. Hikaru, LP, 4000. Gold took the first turn. Ha ha ha. Unlucky, aren't you, human? With me going first, your odds just dropped even lower. Dark World demons cheered around them. The human doesn't even know what he's in for. Had. Lord Gold's turn. Can't wait to see what miserable fate awaits that mortal. Selena gasped. As Gold drew his card, eerie black mist erupted from his body. Behind him, a massive white phantom loomed, its form twisted and unstable. Master. Selena felt short of breath. The monstrous image stabbed into her consciousness like a needle. Gold's figure swelled in her eyes, towering over the world. She trembled and broke into cold sweat. If just watching brought this much pressure, how much more was Hikaru enduring in the duel itself? Don't worry, Selena. You'll get used to it, Hikaru reassured her calmly. Gore. This Gold guy isn't some mid-boss pushover, Tiara warned him. Hikaru nodded. So this really was a spirit infused with the light of ruin. My turn. Gold grinned. Confident, are you? Got a powerful card up your sleeve? Doesn't matter. Take a good look at your hand, because this card will obliterate your hopes. I activate the spell card, dragged down into the grave. It begins. Dark World Opener, Hand Destruction. Chapter 228, It's So Noisy. The effect of this card is that all warriors in hand must discard every card in their hand. Then, each player draws the same number of cards that were discarded. Hikaru and the Wu Lord of Dark World sent their hands to the graveyard, then each drew 5 new cards. Hikaru glanced over his new hand, then folded it together with the others and waited for his opponent to proceed. You might be wondering, if it's just a hand refresh, why go through the trouble of discarding the old ones? Well, let me show you why. I activate the effects of Silva, Warlord of Dark World, Beige, Vanguard of Dark World, Lucent, Netherlord of Dark World, and also my own effect. These cards were discarded by a card effect, so they all activate their effects from the graveyard. They can all be special summoned. Under Selina's shocked gaze, the Wu Lord pulled 4 cards from the graveyard and slammed them all onto the duel disc in one motion. Silva, Warlord of Dark World, Level 5 DRK 2300 ATK. Lucent, Netherlord of Dark World, Level 6 DRK 2400 ATK. Beige, Vanguard of Dark World, Level 4 DRK 1600 ATK. 3 demons of different appearances and colors manifested on his field. Then, the golden gold beat his wings, walked forward, and as his feet struck the rooftop, they left deep imprints. His aura was wholly unlike the others. Just standing there seemed to scorch the air, making hearts tremble. Gold, Wu Lord of Dark World, Level 5 DRK 2300 ATK. He special summoned 4 fiend monsters all at once? Selina gasped in shock. She was still in the stage of normal summoning Red Fox and ending her turn. Yet the first thing she saw upon arriving in another dimension was a spirit using 1 card to special summon 4 fiends, 3 of which were high level with over 2000 attack. He. One demon snickered at her surprise. Ignorant human. You came after Lord Gold without doing your homework? Already stunned? He, this is just the beginning. Lord Gold is a warrior powerful enough to bring this entire dimension to ruin. Cherish your final moments, human. These demons sure had a lot to say. Hikaru merely gave them a glance without responding. Selina took a deep breath. She couldn't be afraid. Her master was still fighting. She couldn't show fear and distract him. Oof. Across from Hikaru, Lucent had been carefully observing his expressions and movements. After a while, it still couldn't detect any fear, anxiety, or similar emotions on Hikaru's face. In fact, he seemed to be spacing out. Though not quite. In a proper duel, spacing out could mean missing something and getting hurt. That would be a big loss. Hikaru was simply recalling the events of the original. In the source material, after the students of Duel Academy entered another world, the Mad King of the Dark World set his sights on them. Chaz, Alexis, and Atticus were all captured without even getting to duel, implanted with the Wicked Rune, and ultimately absorbed by the Wicked Rune to become fuel for the birth of super polymerization. As for the Wu Lords of Dark World, the card lore depicted them as more honorable demons who often aided the weak. The true villains of Dark World were the Mad King and Rainbows, Overlord of Dark World. The others were, at most, neutral. But in canon, all the Dark World spirits served the Supreme King, waging war and ruling the spirit world with cruelty. Initially, Hikaru had found the disconnect between card lore and anime portrayal a bit jarring. But in this world, he'd learned from Crystal that dual monster spirits and their card story counterparts were more like heroic spirits and their original legends. So he no longer minded. Either way, it didn't matter. No matter what you are, if you do evil, even a Lightsworn has to come over and smack you down. No fear at all? Interesting. Is it confidence, or just pretending? Lucent had stared so long that it was bothering Hikaru. At last, the Dark World General resumed his play. But it doesn't matter, because my turn isn't over yet. I activate the field spell, the Gates of Dark World. A massive, terrifying wall of flesh rose behind the Wu Lord. Its gray-white surface was like a pile of bones, filled with a deathly aura, and utterly menacing. While this card is on the field, all fiend monsters I control gain 300 attack and defense. Silva, Warlord of Dark World, ATK, 2300 2600. Lucent, Netherlord of Dark World, ATK, 2400 2700. Beige, Vanguard of Dark World, ATK, 1600 1900. Gold, Woolord of Dark World, ATK, 2300 2600. Ah! The army, already terrifying, had grown even stronger. Selena, who'd been clenching her jaw to suppress her scream, couldn't help but cry out. Hikaru turned to look at her, just about to speak, when the Woolord shouted, still worrying about others in a duel. Better look after yourself. I activate the effect of the Gates of Dark World. Discard one card, banish one fiend from my graveyard, then draw one card. I discard Latinum, Exarch of Dark World, banish Zur, Knight of Dark World, and draw one card. Gren's effect is similar to mine and activates as well. It is special summoned in defense position. Latinum, Exarch of Dark World, level 6 DARK Fiend DF, 2400 2700. Ha 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 ha. How about now? Are you scared, human? This is my power, the strength with which Gold, Woolord of Dark World, shall one day rule the world. The Woolord cackled madly, joined by the sinister laughter of his demonic underlings. Just then. Shut up! Hikaru snorted coldly. Gah! The Woolord's voice cut off like a duck getting strangled, sputtering incoherently. The surrounding demons backed away in fright, staring at Hikaru in shock. Selena, who had been overwhelmed with fear, suddenly felt the pressure lift like a weight from her chest. You're so damn noisy. Hikaru raised his left hand, lifting the card he held. Dueling is about this. Then, he clenched his right hand into a fist, thumb pointing at his mouth. Not this. You. The Woolord was momentarily speechless. Hurry up and end your turn. Hikaru crossed his arms, looking down on the Woolord with disdain. I'll beat you in one turn. Chapter 229, On-Site Teaching Class by Words and Deeds. TCH, end of turn. Gold, Woolord of Dark World leaned back lazily. Several demons rushed to bring him a chair, letting him sit comfortably in the center of the battlefield. My turn. Draw. Hikaru drew his card and immediately placed it into his duel disk. I pay 1000 life points to activate the spell card, Ready Fusion. Hikaru, LP, 4000 3000. Ready Fusion? Gold looked at the card with confusion. This was their first duel, and he had no idea what kind of duelist Hikaru was. To use something seemingly worthless like Ready Fusion right away? Was this human not powerful after all? Hikaru didn't waste words and activated the effect directly. Pay 1000 life points. Special summon one level 6 or lower non-effect fusion monster from the extra deck. That monster can't attack and will be destroyed during the end phase. I special summon from the extra deck, level 6, Metal Dragon. Come forth, Metal Dragon. A segmented mechanical dragon, vaguely resembling a cyber dragon, emerged from the card in Hikaru's hand and landed at his side. Metal Dragon, level 6 WIND Machine 1850 ATK. Only 1850 attack? Gold looked at the monster, then burst into laughter. The surrounding demons joined him in mocking chorus. Ha 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 ha. 1850 attack? Lord Beige could beat that easily. All that build up for this? I expected something terrifying, not this scrap. Their laughter filled the air. The scene snapped Selena out of her fear-fogged state. She yelled at the surrounding demons, "Don't laugh. My master is the absolute fusionist, the one who pursues the pinnacle of fusion." Instead of stopping, the demons laughed even harder. You bastards! Selena rolled up her sleeves, ready to brawl barehanded. No need, Selena. Master? Hikaru drew a card from the hand in his left, raised it to his face, and said, I'm glad you're back to your usual self. Aha, master. Selena rubbed the back of her head sheepishly. Hikaru chuckled. Normally, Hikaru wasn't one to exert pressure. Besides the occasional blunt jab at the Fusion army, like his quip about them being neither fusion nor a club, he was usually composed. So when he interrupted Gold earlier, it wasn't just because he was annoyed. Selena had been rattled, frightened by the demons and overwhelmed by Gold's presence. Hikaru, as her master, couldn't just stand by. He wasn't a real teacher, though. He didn't know what to say or how to guide her. He feared he'd mess things up. So he relied on one method, leading by example. Selena would one day travel through many more dimensions. Outside of duels, the most crucial lesson. Don't let the enemy or the environment shake your resolve. Even if a volcano erupts, you duel with your full strength. Never underestimate a weak monster. When they unite, they can unleash incredible power. Just like the heroes of this city. Just like their specialty, teamwork. Those heroes? I already ran them off. They were forced to retreat. Hikaru narrowed his eyes. They're preparing to strike back, always and forever. They will never give up. Now, let me show you my fusion. Activate spell card, Fusion Deployment. The card artwork depicted a warrior of the Dark World leaping off a dragon into battle. That's the Dark World Gatekeeper. Gold recognized the monster in the artwork. Dark World Warrior of the Dark Blade. This card was later reprinted in the Don't Forget series as a key fusion piece. Fusion deployment can only be activated once per turn. The turn it is used, you can't special summon from the extra deck except for fusion monsters. Hikaru continued while opening his extra deck. Reveal one fusion monster from your extra deck. Then special summon one fusion material mentioned by name on that card from your hand or deck. Ha! That easy? The Dark World General began to worry. I reveal Cyber Twin Dragon from my extra deck. From my deck, I special summon one of its fusion materials, Cyber Dragon. This time, the real Cyber Dragon. Cyber Dragon, level 5 light machine 2100 ATK. Cyber Dragon, huh? Heh, 2100 ATK. Stronger than Metal Dragon. At least enough to beat Beige, Gold said with arms crossed, nodding. But with just this, you won't survive my army. And there's no way you're ending this turn. Hikaru didn't reply. He simply held up one last card. Spell card, Overload Fusion. Overload Fusion? Gold was visibly shocked. Another fusion spell? What is your deck, anyway? My master's deck is full fusion, Selena said proudly. Aside from a few fusion materials, every card is a fusion card. All fusion? Is that even usable? Before he could finish, Hikaru activated the card. This is a fusion spell for machine monsters. By banishing monsters from the field and graveyard, I can fusion summon one Dark Machine fusion monster. Fusion? But your fusion materials aren't wait, no. He realized it. The graveyard. That card destruction earlier. Hikaru had tossed 5 cards. As a duelist, always evaluate your cards, Selena, Hikaru said, pulling cards from the graveyard and showing them before sliding them into his pouch. Even with card destruction, you must look at what went in. I banish Cyber Dragon, Metal Dragon from the field, and Cannon Soldier, Ancient Gear Knight, and Ancient Gear Golem from the graveyard. 5? 5 fusion materials? Gold could tell this was bad. Fusion materials, Cyber Dragon and one or more machine-type monsters. Fusion summon. Chimeratech Over Dragon. Chimeratech Over Dragon, level 9 DARK machine? ATK. Its ATK is 800 times the number of fusion materials used. So with 5 materials, its ATK is F. 4000? Ah. Wah. The demons gasped. Chimeratech Over Dragon, ATK? 4000. Battle. Chimeratech Over Dragon attacks Gren, Tactician of Dark World. Gold flinched at the 4000 ATK mechanical dragon, then laughed wildly. Fool! Attacking a defense monster with 4000 ATK? You won't deal me any damage. You still think you can finish me this turn? Wrong. Selena pumped her fists. Chimeratech Overdragon can attack once per fusion material used. It used 5, so it can attack 5 times. W. What? Gold was stunned. Hikaru inhaled deeply. Now you see, Selena? Stay calm, and you can use the same strategy to beat this enemy. Her Moonlight deck also had fusion monsters that could attack all monsters. She had her own ways to boost ATK. Hikaru's tactics were completely replicable. In fact, for her deck, those 4 2000 plus ATK monsters were just 4 big targets. Deploying 5 monsters with no defense or resistance, without knowing the opponent's deck, was just asking to be wiped. Even 5 in defense position would have been smarter. Yes. Selena finally ignored the demon's menace. These so-called demons weren't so scary after all. This skyscraper was occupied by Gold, sure, but the guy barely eked out a win against the local spirit and needed Light of Destruction to finish it. He was only slightly stronger than what Selena had originally been assigned to face. Seeing her smile, Hikaru nodded and said with a smile, "A duelist, no matter how terrifying the opponent or environment, must always hold on to their heart. Just a little Light of Destruction, and you think you're invincible? That mindset must never take root. Then, continue battle." Chimeratech Overdragon attacks Silva, Warlord of Dark World. Energy surged. The mechanical dragon spewed searing flames and shattered the Silver General. Gwa! Gold was blown from his throne by the impact. Gold, LP, 2600. Next, attack Lucent, Netherlord of Dark World. Boom! Gold had just stood up, only to be blasted away again. Gold, LP, 1300. Fourth strike. Hikaru narrowed his eyes. Tiara raised her hand and snapped her fingers. Then, Hikaru declared, Chimeratech Overdragon attacks Gold, Warlord of Dark World. Seeing 7 or 8 dragon heads all aiming at him, Gold froze mid-rise. Should've never summoned myself. Repent to the heroes and spirits you tormented. Evolution Aggregate Burst. Aiga. Gold was consumed by a flood of white light, screaming as he was blasted to bits. He disintegrated into a card and floated down like a feather, landing with a soft flutter. Chapter 230. Clang. As Gold's physical form reverted to a card, his axe clattered to the ground with a crisp metallic ring. Along with it, the parchment he had held slipped from his grasp and fluttered down. Lord Gold. Ah! The surrounding spirits screamed in panic. In an instant, the general who had overwhelmed them with sheer power and presence had been utterly obliterated, leaving them too afraid to stay. One after another, they fled toward the still fading gates of Dark World. But before they could make it through, purple puppet strings weaved into a net that instantly ensnared all of them, holding them outside the portal. Just before the gates of Dark World fully vanished, under the watchful eyes of Hikaru and Selena, a black mist-like vapor rose from the Gold, Warlord of Dark World, card lying on the ground. Before anyone, spirit or otherwise, could react, it transformed into a streak of black light and shot into the gate with a shriek, vanishing along with the door. What was that? Selena had somehow already run up to Hikaru, pointing toward the gate in curiosity. Hikaru didn't answer. Instead, as the black light fused into the portal, the cards Gold had previously held shimmered and began to manifest figures. The elemental heroes were being revived. Ugh! Where is this? Cough, cough, cough. Miss Bud, I need healing. Where are the civilians? Where did they go? As soon as the heroes regained their senses, they began chattering in confusion. Compared to Gold's demonic rabble, this kind of noise didn't bother Hikaru at all. Everyone, Bubbleman used his grappling line to anchor himself from a rooftop and rebounded to the ground, quickly explaining everything to his companions. That saved Hikaru the effort. While Bubbleman expressed his thanks, Hikaru walked over to where Gold had stood, picked up the fallen axe, gave it a few spins, then handed it to the wide-eyed Fullmetal Alchemist. Honestly, this thing might actually be gold. Then he turned to Gold's original card, a level 5 fiend with 2300 ATK. While this card might not serve any purpose in Hikaru's deck, he did recall that before his transmigration, Dark World had already begun transitioning from its old hand destruction combo plays. Nowadays, Dark World was a fusion deck. Even the Dragon Overlord archetype discarded for fusion setups. Then there was the parchment. On it, a humanoid figure was sketched. Hikaru pulled the parchment close, inspecting it carefully from top to bottom. After a long pause, he still couldn't recognize what the image was. Structurally, yes, it had a nose and eyes, so probably a face. But every other stroke screamed one thing to Hikaru: abstract. The art didn't resemble a human at all. It looked more like a demon. Maybe to the Dark World denizens, this was a more traditional art style. Could you not just use pencil sketching? Who's supposed to identify this? Click. As Hikaru tugged at the parchment, he suddenly felt something off. He pulled further and found something hidden between the layers. He asked Fullmetal Alchemist to gently slice it open with the axe. Inside, a single card fell out. There was a card in there? Tiara asked, puzzled. I didn't sense anything. She didn't sense it? Hikaru picked up the card. As he looked at it, Selena tried to peer over, but he quickly stopped her. Wicked Rune Anger. Effect: when this card is sent to the graveyard, all cards of the same name in the graveyard are banished. At a glance, it seemed pointless. But this wasn't just a regular card. It was a sacrificial component for a ritual. One of the keys to finding the ultimate fusion, super polymerization. In the original, Chaz and the others were possessed by this wicked rune. Their hatred for Jaden was magnified until it drove them to tragic ends and broke Jaden completely. Hikaru looked back at the parchment. Now it made sense. These Dark World spirits had been hunting sacrifices. And it looked like they had mass-produced wicked rune cards. A wide net search operation for ritual fodder. Hikaru frowned. Dark World was canonically under the Supreme King, but it was also influenced by Yubel. It seemed the moment of being targeted was fast approaching. The light of destruction under Yubel's shadow. In the original, until Yubel fused with Jaden and used the power of universal darkness to defeat the light of destruction, that light continued to subtly manipulate anyone harboring malice. It amplified greed, granting unnatural strength, like an omnipresent evil waiting for someone strong enough to end the world. And with Yubel added to the mix, things only got worse. Yubel was a top-tier threat, both in duels and physical power. In the canon, Jaden had no choice but to fuse with Yubel via super polymerization to stop her. Clearly, this was an enemy Hikaru would have to face. This wasn't Hikaru sticking his nose in other people's business. He'd always kept to himself, pursuing his own path. Even knowing some characters were villainous, he left them be unless they came for him. Like most of the side villains or antagonists from the original, Hikaru hadn't even met them. He'd never encountered Jinzo or the Gravekeeper clan. Jaden versus Aster? Chaz Path? Bastions or Atticus? Hikaru would only offer advice. What they chose was their own. Back during the Shadow Riders arc, Hikaru had even prepared to give Jaden the Philosopher's Stone or just hand him super polymerization if Kajamaru ever showed up. Because Hikaru knew, Kajamaru wasn't after the strongest duelist. That said, the one with the strongest spirit energy. Though Kajamaru died under strange circumstances, that view hadn't changed. Stick to your goals. Help friends when needed. You're not their babysitter. They're not infants. Everyone has their path. Otherwise, how would they become great duelists? What Hikaru wanted to do in this academy was fight the fusion army. But Yubel. That changed everything. This was a threat he had to confront. Even if Hikaru had no interest, even if he believed Jaden in this world had better allies and stronger duels and could defeat Yubel, he still had to face it. Because Yubel would indiscriminately attack everyone around Jaden. Dual or supernatural might, Yubel would use them all. And Hikaru? He was Jaden's best friend. However, to avoid Jaden just because of that? No way. He and Jaden became friends not because Hikaru knew Jaden was the protagonist, but because Jaden invited him into a tag duel, and time revealed this passionate, brilliant duelist. All his other friends? Same story. There was no chance of distancing himself. Warrior of humanity. Over there, the hero warriors had lined up and saluted Hikaru with reverence. Thank you for your aid. He slipped, wicked rune anger, into his pouch and waved them off with a smile. No need for that. A duelist lends a hand when there's injustice. It's nothing to thank me for. Selena nodded beside him. Still, as those rescued, we must express our gratitude. The one leading the group was elemental hero Thunder Giant, the captain of the remaining rooftop defenders. After thanking them, he asked if the two human warriors had any requests. Finally, the plan for dimensional travel could proceed as planned. We do. We're from Duel Academy, you've heard of it? Ah. So you're friends of Jaden. He's quite well known among hero spirits, even if he's only visited a few times. Understood. Though, Skyscraper right now. Thunder Giant scratched his head. Given the current wrecked state of Skyscraper, finding a proper opponent for new human duelists would be tricky. It's fine. Anyone will do. Selena raised her hand, trying to catch their attention. She was itching for a duel. I see. Then we'll prepare, Thunder Giant nodded. We'll find this warrior lady a suitable opponent. For now, please rest at the Hero Guild. Much appreciated. That wraps up this part of What If Fusion Deck User in a Different Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.